This came through our committee, the Education Labor Committee, and in fact they marked it up on Valentine's Day 2 years ago. We'll have the anniversary this week, and we went all day. We had 15 amendments on our side, and some real good amendments, just trying to bring a little, even though we thought the bill could not be fixed, we wanted to at least try to make it a little more palatable, such as right now the employers have the responsibility to know that to verify that their employees are in the country legally. We said, well, how about the union share that responsibility, because it's something that is troubling to everybody, and why not have them help out? No. Every Democrat voted no on that amendment. In fact, we said, well, if it's good for organizing unions, how about for decertifying? You know, just have the road go both ways. Every Democrat, again, voted no on that amendment. We had 15 amendments. Not one Democrat voted for one amendment. You know, we've had all this talk about bipartisanship and how we should work together to try to help the American people. And we didn't change one word in that bill. And then when it came to the floor, of course, it was no chance of getting any amendments passed. And we have found that in our hearings, we heard some bad things that happened on both sides when you go through one of these struggles. And we've had surveys that have found that 18% of people that sign the card check to be recognized by the union vote against it when they have the opportunity in secret. And you know, the current law says if 30% of people sign the card, then the Labor Relations Board comes in and supervises the election. And both sides can educate, intimidate, coerce, do whatever they do, which is not good, but that's the process. But at the end of the day, the employee can go in and secretly, he's the only person, or she, the only one that knows how they're voting, just as when we just voted a couple of months ago for leadership changes in our country. And then they can walk out of that booth, and the employer doesn't know how they voted, the union organizers don't know how they voted, and I think that's a right that should, you know, we've had people ever since the creation of our country that have died for that right to vote and for a secret ballot. And now, because certain people feel that maybe the playing field isn't even, we want to make it a little less even, we're going to take away people's right to vote. I think when the American people understand this issue, they will rise up in indignation with the idea that they would be giving up that right. And that's why 76% of people oppose this bill. And the more they learn about it, the more they will oppose it, whether they're in a union or not. We're not talking, this is not a union versus management. This is a fight to preserve basic rights that we should have as Americans.
Yeah, I think that's a wonderful point, Buck, is that, and your constituents may not all realize that you're the lead Republican on education and labor issues in the United States House of Representatives. And people who know you to be a very fair-minded man. You take things as they come. You call them like you see them. And this is not a Republican and Democrat issue, as you're saying. It's not even a union or merit issue here. I'm very struck, as I'm sure a number of the viewers were, with the statistics. More than 80% of Americans, including union members around the country, oppose this measure on the floor. And so While some in the debate want to make this about shirts and skins, Democrats, Republicans, it really isn't that. And those of us that are opposing this measure really, I believe, are coming at it with a sense of public-mindedness that this is really about protecting the rights of workers. I think I know you well enough to know that any business in America where the employees genuinely wanted to join a union, I think you would be the first to head to the Education and Labor Committee and the first to head to the floor and defend their right to do that. People who know you know that to be true. But in defending their right to join a union voluntarily, that means you also need to preserve their right not to join a union involuntarily or in an environment that may be coercive in nature. And so I really commend you for the approach to this. But people, as I said before, I think the threat here is very real. People certainly know where you stand on this issue. But obviously, with the state of California comprising in its congressional delegation some 20% of the members of Congress, I suspect many people viewing have a lot more other members of Congress they could communicate with in a respectful way, members of the United States Senate from California, and taking a minute, I think you would agree, as a member of Congress from Indiana and you from California, getting a respectful letter from someone who is out there working in my district or employing people in my district, getting a respectful email from folks or a phone call is much more meaningful than our constituents really recognize. And to take time to do that and to say, I need to, people don't need to call you on this, although I know you'd welcome it, but to call just every bit as many of the representatives of California that there are in Washington, D.C. and say, either I'm somebody that draws a paycheck or I'm somebody that signs a paycheck, I don't want a card check, would be very timely and helpful.
Excellent point. And you know, people who live in my district have family and friends that live in other districts, just as in your district. And this is an issue that is big enough to get engaged in. This is one that will affect everybody in this country.
That's right.
One way or another. And you know, the point you made about unions, I was a union member as a young man. I was a Teamster. And before that, my dad, as a young man, worked for a company, and this is why we had unions. He worked for a meat packing company, and the sales manager would come in every week and fire somebody. You know, people shouldn't be treated like that. People shouldn't have to worry when they get up every morning if I happen to not smile correctly at my boss, or if I say the wrong word, I might lose my job. You know, people should not be treated like that. And that's what brought unions, to help give people dignity and protection in the workplace. And we've had a lot of labor laws passed that give people protection. So this is not a battle, as I've said before and you said, between labor and management. This is a battle to preserve human right.